Taking us a while to get here, Razor Ray, but we're here, and Tommy Phillips is in the building too.
Ray.
What a combination we have here.
Tom squared. I'm outgunned here.
G'day ball magnets. Today's episode is brought to you by My Muscle Chef. We all know how time consuming a high quality diet can be and how meal prepping can take a bit of time. I can definitely relate to this on a Sunday, preparing for the week. These are honestly game changer, guys. Encourage you all to get involved. And guys, for the finals, have actually given us a massive discount. Very generous of them. You can get $120 off your first 6 orders using code BALLMAGNETS120 at checkout. Again, head to the website mymusclechef.com to get involved.
He's a superstar. He is an absolute superstar, Tom Mitchell. Cripps at the back. Cripps is too good. Yes! Oh, how good was that?
And it's fitting with your retirement coming up in the AFL. Been, I don't even know how many years. I was just looking at some stats, but almost 400 games, a few grand finals. Keen to touch on 2010 early in the piece here, but
Get that away. Yep.
yeah.
Say a few more years, I reckon.
Yeah.
20 years. It's been a long time. My daughter actually said to me the other day, so I always bring pizza home from Topolino's after night games in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And she won't eat it, but we have pizza together. She comes out and talks smack. She doesn't sleep. And she said to me, Dad, I'm going to miss these pizza nights because she goes, I've only ever known you with umpiring my whole life. So, yeah, it'll be different, but it comes to an end for all of us boys.
It does.
Yeah, at some point.
It's quite a life, isn't it?
So you're the longest standing?
Nah. There's a couple we're in these distinct groups and they've got different names for them at the AFL, but basically we've got the embryos and the fossils. That's how I see it. So there's a group of my fellows who are about anywhere between sort of 43 and nearly 50.
Yeah.
So Simon Meredith would be, from a birth certificate perspective,
King Fossil.
he's proper fossil.
Yeah.
We Joe Biden stuff, like 4 more years. We go, mate, you're done. Like, give it up.
Joe Biden can't even string a sentence together. He's running the world.
Well, I don't know. Have you ever spoken to Simon? I don't know whether he can either.
Yeah,
no,
there you go.
no, he's a legend. So, so he's our eldest. And then there's guys like Brett Roseberry, who started much younger than us on the AFL list. He was like a bit of a prodigy. And so he's the game's record holder. He's north of 500, but he's a little bit younger than us. Partly that's due to surgical intervention, but also birth certificate.
He's one I've always noticed has a very good temperament. Like you all have slightly different personalities. He's always very
calm,
composed. Whereas you'll happily get in the grill and say, boys, shut the hell up, will you? Just get on with it.
And we're all wired different. We're all weirdos, like all of us, in certain ways. And I don't know, Tom, I think, well, for me, I'm pretty limited in many areas. And so if I try and be anything other than who I am, it won't come off great.
Yeah, no, that's so true.
And so I just try and be me, and that won't vibe with everyone, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Brett's a very composed man.
Yeah. Where did the nickname Razor come from? Was that the Brian Taylor job?
I played cricket at the Melbourne Cricket Club when I first came to Melbourne. I didn't know anyone. And a dude I was teaching with at a college said, oh, you play cricket, mate? And I said, oh, I'll try to. He goes, come down for a net. So I was at the Albert Ground and we're netting there and it's like incredible facilities and you got Brad Hodge and Shane Harwood and Andrew McDonald and all these like legends of Victorian cricket. And anyway, I was just known as the ump. And so that was it. And so, ump, net 3, whatever. And then you play a few one-dayers and I'm batting down the bottom. And so you don't get much of a hit. You might have a dozen balls or something like that, and then you keep, because that's what I did.
You're the keeper, yeah.
Yeah, and then we played a 2-day game, a top-of-the-table clash out at Hawthorn, and this little leg spinner went through us. And so all of a sudden I'm trying to find my thigh pad and make my way out. I nicked my first delivery, keeper dropped it. No. And they're all around the bat. I'm like, I'm after this bloke. I'm not going to nick around. So I made a few runs, and I took a one-handed catch to get rid of their captain, and we win. And I batted with a Gray Nichols Razor bat. So that was the first time I became Razor anywhere.
So I thought it was Ray related.
And then it aligned with BT's Comet. Yeah. And so then that became...
so BT got a hold of it.
And then Whooshka, that was away it went. And
it's pretty iconic. Like there's not many more iconic games in footy.
When Razor's umpire.
Yeah. Flip's pretty good. Yeah. T-Flip.
Yeah. I don't mind T-Flip.
Not Razor though.
I didn't like it to start with. Like I had a real problem. Like I was the problem.
Yeah.
Let's be
clear.
clear.
You didn't embrace it. That's the thing with nicknames. You don't embrace them. Like I've learned in footy clubs, young guys come in, if you get a nickname, you don't like it, the boys are pouncing on that. They're all over it.
Yeah. I didn't like it because forever, anyone who knew me, like they call me Chambo, right? And so then you'd have people passing judgment because of what we do. We're umpires, it's debatable, all that stuff. And they were using a name that I didn't relate to myself to pretty much hang shit. And so I became quite abrasive with it. And I'm going to name drop, which makes me a flog, but let's lean in.
We love name drops here.
So Damien Fleming, who I love.
Yeah, fast bowler.
Yeah, and so funny.
Had a hat-trick ball and he got a hat-trick and then he had another hat-trick ball dropped by Shane Warne.
This is correct. Yep. Yes. And a mad Hawthorn man.
Yep.
Okay. He tells a great story about that taking the hat-trick. You have to let him tell. He's the funniest man in the world. And he used to help us out with some stuff that we do with some fundraising. And we had a coffee one day and he said, mate, this is the greatest, this is the coolest thing that it polarizes people. You need to lean into this. He goes, do you know how embarrassing it is to have to make up your own nickname? I've had to call myself the bowlologist, right? He goes, just lean in. And I actually went and saw a counsellor, psychologist for a period of time.
About the nickname?
Well, not so much about the nickname itself. That was part of it. But I'd had an injury. I was told I wasn't going to be able to get back. I was a bit shitty on it all. And I was like, no, I'm not dealing with this. I'm not coping with this at all. And part of it was about understanding, mate, it's just noise, right? And it is whatever you make it out to be, really. And so just being able to understand that my frustrations had nothing to do with the name.
Yeah.
And so I made a vow to myself, if I got back, I'd just lean in and embrace it. And so, yeah, that's that.
In terms of noise, that was, I'm sure we'll get deep in this chat at some point, but as an umpire, I couldn't even fathom the noise you have to deal with. I honestly have so much respect, but also feel so sorry for the umpires. We've spoken about this on the pod before. You've got two fan bases. No matter what decision you make, 50% think you're wrong. It's such a tough game to umpire, even to the point where I was keen to ask you, I've done a little bit of coaching this year at Carey Grammar in the junior ranks, and there's junior umpires and, even supporters and parents are yelling over the fence. It'd be such an intimidating thing as an up-and-coming umpire. What are your thoughts on all of that?
I told a story the other week. I went back a fortnight ago and umpired GWS versus Hawthorn at Manuka Oval, and I'm from Canberra. And it was the 100-year celebration of Manuka Oval and 100 years of AFL in Canberra. And there's Jezelenko and Hurd and all these guns, Justin Blumfield, Craig Bolton, Aaron Hamill, all those guys, right? And I was asked, and then now today you've got Tommy Green and these guys, yeah? And so they were talking about, tell us about when you started umpiring. And I remember it was my third game ever. So I was a junior under 12s or 14s or something. And I'd finished the game and I was about to take off, and the coach of one of the sides, different club to what I played for, came and he grabbed me. I thought he was going to whack me, right? And he goes, oi, you're really good at this, mate. You need to keep doing it, right? Seriously, have a crack at it. And so I had this experience, and that was, and I hadn't seen him since that day until 2 weeks ago in Canberra. And so I just made a beeline to this dude and said, I don't think you'll remember this, but it had a really profound impact on me as a teenager.
Did he remember it?
No, he knew. He goes, mate, Warniassa Oval, he knew like it was yesterday. It was actually a bit bizarre.
Yeah.
And I was like, so what I took out of that is, and what I try to convey to local sporting clubs, and it doesn't matter the code, that environment has a huge impact on these people. And they're generally volunteers, right, at junior level. They're essentially volunteers. And people go, we noticed the umpires today. If they don't turn up next week, you'll notice them more because you won't be able to play. So barrack, ball, back, all that's cool, but leave the threatening and the online crap. Yeah. I reckon we can park that. Yeah.
100%.
That would probably be it. But at the elite level, we're really lucky.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't have to turn on comments. I don't have to look at Twitter. I don't have to read. I don't do any of that. So I don't have that down my throat. It's more the community stuff that's, I reckon, a bit tough.
Yeah.
Do you get told, or do the up and coming umpires get told to not look at that stuff? Like, what is the education with that to stay?
The group's really cool, particularly the elder statesmen. I remember when I first started, and we had our kings, and they were really quick to give you feedback. I remember playing as a cricketer, and I debuted in senior cricket, and I was like 16, and I was keeper, so I was chirpy, as you can imagine, right? And I was hopping into this.
You have a good first sleep helping you out too. You need that too.
Well, we won, but I've been getting stuck into this guy, and I remember this big fella from our club, big middle order, left-handed batter, and Graham Webber, his name is. And he pulled me aside after the game, and he goes, I've got a rule in my mind, and he goes, it can be your rule or not, about sledging. And I said, oh, yeah, tell me about it. And he goes, if they've done more than you or they're better than you, shut your mouth. And it was a very clear, hey, you're new here, mate. Yeah. Earn your stripes first before you start slinging shit, right? And so that was I remember that again like it was yesterday, because it was really wise advice by an elder statesman who looked out for me. He gave me a clip, but he was looking out for me. It was care-based. The umpires are very much the same. So, like you guys, particularly trips on the road, pre-season camps, those are the times where you get the best amount of time to connect with people and help out. But, yeah, social media,
we experience it as players as well. I've experienced it. Flip's experienced it. A lot of our teammates, some of the things that get written, especially with, the access people can have to you with, you can message anyone and get in contact with anyone. And a lot of guys do, unfortunately, read into it. But I guess umpires experience the same thing. What would be some of the, you obviously always hear, normally it's white noise in the background as players and umpires. It's sort of there. But I could only imagine after a tight game, you're walking off. Has there been any sledges that you've heard that have been very personal, that have had an effect on you? You seem like a guy that's pretty water off a duck's back, but I'm sure you hear things which must disappoint you at times.
Yeah, I think there's some funny stuff, which I like.
Yeah, give us some of the funny stuff then.
Well, there's always, stuff to do with your height, right? So, did you drop the ring off at Mordor, sort of that sort of gear. But like the best one was always the one around my surname where they sort of said, the dingo took the wrong Chamberlain. The first time I heard that, I lost my mind laughing. It was so funny. So that was clever. We've had we've had some death threats, things like that, as our AFL umpires, particularly around September, and that people get a little bit off chops. And you can get a bit of that.
Just higher stakes.
Yeah, and then the police get involved, even if you don't want that. Yeah.
You mean like over the fence, or like in terms of Instagram messaging?
Generally on online. Social media stuff and whatever else.
That's pretty. Yeah.
And they're very proactive. Like I remember once there was one, and they arrived at the person's place of employment, full uniform, walked him out, lights on, parked out the front of the house, went home to interview him. So everyone in the street could know that the coppers were there with the light. Like they take it seriously, and which is great. Doesn't happen all the time, but these things do happen, and they shouldn't. They shouldn't.
Well, I don't know if that. I think they should. Like you hear stories about.
Sorry, I mean like the threats. The threats should happen.
Yeah, but you hear stories overseas with. I'm not sure how closely you follow the soccer, but like that's pretty serious. Some of the things that have happened over there, like umpires have been killed and murdered. I know that's getting a bit heavy for this podcast, but that's a real thing in some of those countries over there. That's happened before.
Different cultures, different worlds, absolutely. But fortunately, I think generally speaking, we're fortunate, I think, in our game that you've got 36 players at any given time and multiple avenues to score and high scoring. 1-0 is there's a lot on that, right?
Yeah.
110 to 108, there's a few more variables that have gone on over 2 hours.
Yeah.
And I think that's a layer that we should all, as officials, be grateful for, that exists. Yeah.
Like when someone's in soccer in the penalty box and was it a foul, wasn't it? That determines the whole game. Whereas, like you're saying in the AFL, how many mistakes do the players make? Like you look at the clanger stat list at the end of a game. Players, I guarantee you, have made more mistakes than umpires. Just gets,
Tell me this one. So I was asked a few questions this last few weeks, with it coming to an end and, what do you think about this and what are your opinions on that? For you two guys, right, I've always operated under this idea that as an umpire, it's not about being liked or disliked, but you want the players got to be able to trust you. Is that a real thing?
Yeah, I think so.
What do you mean?
Well, if it's the 27-minute mark of a preliminary final and it's high, you want to know that he's going to pay it. Not get too scared or do you want the. I've always thought the players want to be able to predict and trust that you'll do your job, and then that allows you then to freely do yours and know whether it's a free or it isn't.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
I think there's a tendency to for umpires to put their whistle away, sort of thing in those.
You're a flat earther, aren't you, Tommy? No, we're going to have to.
No, certainly not.
If he gets the alfoil out, starts wrapping it around his head, I'm out of here. We'll have to talk about these conspiracy theories. I don't mind it.
But what do you think of that? Like, do you reckon when it gets tense, do you reckon umpires pay more free kicks, or they sort of?
No, I think because of the nature of the game where it's it's subjective, prior opportunity, reasonable time, genuine attempt, they're all interpretations, right? Not in or out. So you can mount an argument on things.
Yeah.
In the big game, so I'm talking finals, prelim, GF, like the best clubs are playing, right? The ones who are humming are there at the end, right? Fair shout. It's the same with the umps. Right, you don't trip over and make a preliminary final.
Yeah, there's like a selection process.
There's the best 8 left.
Yeah,
that's it, and they don't just hand them out. So I've umpired 20 years.
Yeah,
and I've been blessed, and I've only done 6. So you know, prelims,
and 2 grand finals.
Well, it depends how you want to count them. I'm going to count it as 3. I got paid for 3, so we'll call it 3.
2010 replay, thank you.
And then sat on the bench 3 times as the emergency. Yeah.
What years were they?
2009, 2015, 2018.
Pretty consistently spread. So you've been doing it at a high level for a long time.
There's a group, the fossils that we referenced. Yeah. But my point around that is
where were you in the last 3 minutes at the 2018 grand final?
I was on the bench.
Yeah.
Just go. I was emergency boy.
We needed you on the ground. And I was with you. I was on the bench at the same time. So fuck, if we were both on the fucking ground,
who knows what could have happened? So I look at that.
Fuck me. Yeah.
I remember watching. So I was on the bench in 15 when West Coast played Hawthorn, and the scoreboard would reflect that potentially that Hawthorn side, who were amazing, probably had their measure. It was so hot that day. Like it was stinking hot. And I remember thinking, this Hawthorn mob are a bit older. I think they're going to handle this better. They're seasoned. But I always felt because of the heat and that physicality element, I always felt West Coast like they were in it, but I don't think they believed it. Like just watching, I wasn't part of their team. I don't know, but just observing. And they panicked a bit, I reckon, at times when they had the ball. And then I remember observing 2018 and they had learned their lessons. So there was in that first quarter, you guys got out to a bit of a lead, right?
Flip, you played.
It
was 5-0. Yeah.
It was for a period, but they kicked the goal late, West Coast, in that first quarter.
They just hung in there.
And they took the air out of the game, mate. They possessed the ball a bit and made you guys run a bit to defend the ground. Whereas 3 years earlier, they didn't behave with that composure.
Yeah.
And I felt like that was a significant difference between their 2015 effort versus coming back and winning in that 2018 game. There are lots of different ingredients to the result. We know that, and moments and all of that. But observing both of those games, that was a clear point of difference with them.
Yeah, that's a really cool observation, even that you can notice that, like as an umpire. What about 2010? Because I'm sure you've been asked about this plenty of times, but that eerie feeling when the siren went, what was your reaction as an umpire? You obviously would have known the rules that there's no extra time. You would have been more educated than anyone in the stadium about that. So,
well, Nick Maxwell were kind of here, and they've immediately said, "Razor, what does that mean?" I said, "Well, if that's accurate, we've got to come back next week." And they said words to the effect of, "Oh, damn," or something like that. Like, they're both filthy, right? Because you guys get it better than anyone. Like, you're there, you're all in. We win today, yeah. And so both of them wanted to play and get the result, and it was an incredible day. Like, I don't know whether it was just because it was my first grand final, that whole week was just so huge. And the day is just immense. Like, you're coming up out of the race and like they're hanging out of the rafters. It's like, okay, there's a few in here today.
When I hit the golf course with the boys, we like to keep it competitive by having a friendly bet on who has the best score, longest drive, and even nearest to the pin. To place these bets, we use Buddy Bet Golf. Buddy Bet Golf allows you to bet against your mates within the app. Simply create your bet in the app, invite your buddies, play the round, and then declare the winner. Buddy Bet Golf takes out the hassle of carry cash or chasing out the mate that stiffs you on a bet. We all know a few of those. Download the app today and give Buddy Bet Golf a try.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1800 858 858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
And you play the whole back half of the year, and if you're going well as an ump, you get all the good games. So the big games are generally Friday, Saturday nights, right? And it's winter in Melbourne, so it's cold as balls. And then you turn up and it's all the night finals, yeah? And then it's Saturday, last Saturday in September, and it's 28 or 30 degrees. It feels like you're in an oven.
Yeah.
So physically it was massive. And I remember walking off the ground with, the guys who I lent on, they were our kings, were Sean Ryan and Brett Roseberry. So and I was the other guy. And Stephen McBurney, who's now my boss's boss at the AFL, he was the emergency umpire. And we're walking off the ground. I remember this, and it's a draw. And Adrian Anderson's walking onto the ground with Peter Matera to present the Norm Smith Medal. And Adrian, in his professional capacity, he's not a big swearer. Like, he was pretty, like, colour between the lines. And he goes, fucking good job, boys, like this. And I thought, I reckon we might be back next week. We might be all right.
Double payday for the AFL.
But it was real weird because you come off and it hadn't been done in our 70s was the last time we had a draw.
Yeah.
So it was like, what's happening?
North's first pies.
Yeah. But it was unreal. It was like, it wasn't the best game I've been involved in, but it was the best moment.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of what's on the line and everything like that.
Yeah, it was unreal.
And Norm Smith voting, that's obviously not in your hands. That's taken out of your hands, which is allows you to umpire. Because like on the Brownlow, which there's so much interest in the Brownlow, like how does it actually work at the end of a game? Do you guys come in as a group of 3 or 4 and collaborate and have a discussion? Do you get a stat sheet? How does the conversation work if it's a line ball between, say, Paddy Cripps and Lachie Neale? Who makes the final call?
Yep.
How does that work?
So all four field umpires now.
Yeah.
So all 4 field umpires have to agree, and they only get to cast 3, 2, and 1. So you got 36 on the field at any given moment, plus interchange. So what have we got? We got 44. Is that right? 22 and a
sub now.
A sub,
26,
right?
yeah.
So and only 3 players will get
46.
votes. Yeah.
So
3, 2, 1.
each umpire rates 3, 2, 1, and then you come together, or
So sometimes we can get to that point.
yeah.
If we're trying to figure out how do we split these guys. So generally what we do throughout the game, because obviously it's over 2 hours, we'll take, and we're always got our microphone on, so that's quite an intrusive thing. So you'll get your pen and you'll might jot something down on a piece of paper and have that tucked away or whatever. Just, Flip's killing it on the wing. He's hit the scoreboard again with that penetrating left foot. So, you'll make a note of that or whatever the case may be. And then at the end, we normally do a process of elimination. That's how I start. Who wouldn't be in consideration? Why? We always have questions like, who did we see had a role today? So, Jack Gunston plays full forward, old word, in Canberra, and he just chases Sam Taylor around for 2 hours, right? So he obviously had a specific role and function against GWS. Okay, so that's clear and obvious. And how did he go with that? Okay, so things that we are able to identify, we discuss that and how does that weigh up and whatever. We don't get given any stats, so there's no official stat sheet or whatever else.
You're obviously human. You see the scoreboards and things.
I was going to say,
all the players do. It's always
stuff around the ground.
It's in your face always.
Yeah,
yeah.
So that gives you a little bit of an idea. And then
So you got to get the vote done before you see any sort of genuine stat sheet.
Yeah, so our phones are all locked away when we come into the ground, which I assume is the same with you guys. I don't know.
We can't touch our phones from 2 hours prior till probably half an hour post game.
We're not allowed to get our phones back until the Brownlow has been done, and it goes in these 2 sealed envelope type things that you can't open without it obviously showing.
And who takes them?
So the umpires have to deliver those back to Armour Guard.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. So it's a full-on process. Do we get every week right? No. Does any human get everything right? No. Do we care about it? Immensely.
Yeah.
Yeah, immensely. Because we understand that whilst it's a unique thing, I think the award itself carries great weight and people care about it. We definitely care about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, fun fact for you.
Yes.
I'm going to bring this one up. You'll like this. Tom Phillips had the most disposals in a season without getting a Brownlow. I'm going to read the number. I'm going to find it.
How many of? I wonder how many of our games he umpired.
Well, he's doing a lot of games.
You played in?
Yeah.
400 games, 375 games?
Yeah, about that, yeah.
Yeah.
What year was it? It was 2018, was it, Flip?
2018, I would have umpired you a couple of times.
You win 2018?
Yeah.
He won it.
Yeah.
But I was, so I went to that night favourite and obviously got the most votes. Another funny story we've touched on is my old man. I think it was 1991, went into the night as a short favourite, under $2. I think it was $1.80 favourite.
Yeah.
How many votes do you reckon he got?
Tell me.
Donuts. Didn't poll as the favourite. Is that unbelievable?
Have you unpacked that together over roast dinner on a Sunday?
Plenty of bloody...
Surely you wear the medal.
I normally wear mine and I bring it out of the pocket. Oh, this is what you could add. Sorry, Flip. I'm just getting this up. Was it 2018?
Yeah.
So you had 664 disposals. So I'm assuming you averaged about 30 and you didn't poll.
Yeah.
Does it say on those disposals how far he kicked it?
It just says jammed in next to it.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, no, that makes sense.
Up the chimney.
Yeah.
I want to look up this.
How many kicks on his right foot?
Yeah, not many.
I'm not the worst right foot kick.
I'm not suggesting you are.
Yeah.
Dad'll love this plug
because
he just
not one.
So
to be fair, you played in a premiership side, so you had a few decent players around.
Yeah. So every time I played a good game, you gave a vote to Pendles or Sidebottom.
Yeah.
Razor, let me read some stats out to you. Not that numbers
I get it, but still,
not that numbers are everything, but I'm going to give the old man a plug because he's been very good to me over the years. Just going to read through some games. 31-4, no votes. 40-1, no votes. 34-1, no votes. 46-2, no votes.
46-2.
28-3, no votes. 33-2, no votes. 43-2, no votes. 36-3, no votes. That's only half of them.
Were you like I've always found you to be a really funny. Good dude. Were you horrible to other people? Like, is that what I'm trying to unpack?
I don't think so. Not to you.
Never.
What happens
or any of the umpiring staff?
Because there's certain guys that get quite lippy, and you got to try and take that personal element out of it. You know,
to be honest, and I say that jokingly. You can be the lippiest guy in the world. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, you do it with integrity.
It does not matter, and because And of course, we're all human, so you get frustrated with players. There are players that are like my kryptonite. I can't help myself. I bite back.
Yeah.
Damn it, he's got me again. Yeah. Right. But when we're doing, it's the best and fairest player on the ground. So the feedback that any individual gives us is irrelevant. So that won't have had anything to do with it. But obviously, you played in a jet side, so you've just been a bit stiff.
And you would have won pretty much every game, but you are stiff.
Did you win the best and fairest?
Where'd you come with the BNF?
It was just behind fifth.
Okay, so six.
So six. And if we just go back, because we're talking about numbers.
Just behind fifth, so six,
That makes you sixth.
So shit.
So can we just unpack that? In the Brownlow, and there are 2 sides out there, not just one, and we can give a 3, a 2, and a 1. And you come sixth in your team.
Yeah.
Okay. I feel better about it now.
Yeah. It's a tough gig, but I actually like what we're sort of touching on. Even you mentioned about the players that get to you and things like that. There was a lot of commentary around the dissent rule and how far it was taken. I actually really like it. I like the respect. I actually like when you watch a game on TV. I don't watch a lot of footy anymore, but I like tuning into, say, a Friday night game every now and then And when you can actually see a player, and it's hard, I get the emotion of the game. Some players are more heated than others, but I actually love when you see a player and an umpire having a calm conversation, or what was that one paid for? This is what I saw. Okay, yep. Might agree or disagree, but yep. When the respectful two-way thing is there, I reckon that's one of the best things in the game. When it's and I get it, some players are frustrated. I'm probably not one of those guys that gets super hot-headed, like more probably towards my opponents because like you can't control everything. But I like when I see those dialogues with players and umpire. I reckon it's cool.
I have when a guy's a bit heated, I actually don't dislike it because I go, this means something to this guy or this player.
Who cares?
They care.
Yeah.
Which I like that. I like being at a game and officiating in a game where you go, oh, they're invested tonight. Like that is, and there's difference, right? You know, you've played in a trillion games. There are different levels of, oh, it's on today. And they're the best fun. So I don't dislike the emotional element, but the point that you raise around the ability to be able to go like a bit of a breath is super important.
Yeah.
And then we have to be open then. Like if a player comes and asks a question and they're not abusing you, they might be a bit toey, but they're not you have to be open to that.
Yeah.
And you have to honour that. Yeah. And I think that's super important. Yeah.
Yeah.
With outside of the last 20 years, right, and how you got into the system, let's go back. Your upbringing, where you're from initially, like chat us through your childhood a little bit and how you actually got to.
So born and raised in Canberra in the ACT. My mum's uncle was a gentleman by the name of Johnny Hawke, and he played.
It's a good name, Johnny Hawke.
Well, he played rugby league for St George when they won 11.
Johnny Football.
Yeah. What a doco.
Yeah.
They won 11 premierships in a row in the NRL, and they were so good they changed the rules to try and beat St George. So we sort of had this NRL sort of bent in our family, as you can tell by my build, Tommy.
It's big front rower.
Yeah, exactly right. They're devastated that I didn't go down that path. But Dad was meant to sign me up to footy. He was always working. Dad worked really hard. And so Mum cracked it one day because I hadn't been registered. I'm the eldest.
Yeah.
Threw the three boys in the back of the Toyota Corolla.
Yeah.
And hooked it down, local football ground. Football registration today.
Yeah.
I get signed up. I train with my new best mates for the next 6 weeks. Mum and Dad come to the first game, and there's 4 goalposts up there, and Dad's looking at Mum going, what on earth have you signed the boy up to? Yeah. And now they are lifelong fans. So Mum and Dad love the Swans, love the Swans. They watch 2 games Dad can't watch it live because he thinks that him watching it live has an impact on the result. Tool.
It's a bit of superstition there.
Oh, mate, he's hopeless.
Yeah.
But they watch 2 games every week, the Swans, and then whatever game I butcher. and then I get plenty of feedback from them too, just like everyone else who's never done it.
Yeah. Well, everyone's an expert, aren't they?
100%. Yeah. So that's how I got into footy. But we lived in a suburb called Canberra in the Tuggeranong Valley in Canberra. So where I'm back then, that was like a lower socioeconomic suburb. And then as Canberra got further and further expanded south, we moved further and further south. I went to Wanniassa High School, which was a government school, and I knew 2 people there only from my primary school. But that's where I met all my mates who I ended up playing footy with at the club and playing cricket with at the club. And we've still got a WhatsApp group, and they sook the house down about the umpires every week and all of that sort of stuff today, which is really cool. And then I went to college at a government school. And then I went to the University of Canberra for 4 years and did an education degree, and which was so bizarre. No one in our family had ever gone and undertaken tertiary education. And I think it was good for me because I'm not a teacher anymore, but I obviously utilised what I learned in the degree, but also I wasn't ready to – I was too young. Like I was an infant. Yeah. So I needed to keep doing something before moving out or getting a job or whatever. And then I moved to Sydney for footy. They offered me a job with the AFL.
Doing umpiring.
I was like a proper development guy.
Oh, yeah.
And then I did AFL Reserves footy and State League footy. And then I'd do some CRT teaching at this school at Dover Heights, which is in Bondi. And there was a lady there who was the librarian, and she was on maternity leave. So I was Conan the librarian for about 6 months, which was good fun. And then Peter
just like Heath Shaw, eh?
Just
crept up like a
librarian. Correct, yeah.
I don't even want to know. I don't even want to know about Heath Shaw and the librarian.
Famous bit of commentary.
actually-
Famous bit of commentary.
He turned up in Austin as well, Texas, a few years ago.
Did he?
Heath Shaw,
Not when we were
the
there.
librarian. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, sorry, yeah, no, he did.
So then Peter Schwab come to Sydney and hooked into me basically because like he goes, if you're fair income, pack your shit up and get to Melbourne.
Yeah.
And so that's what brought me to Melbourne. Yeah, to try and get a gig umpiring AFL footy.
With like you mentioned how your parents watch the Swans in your game. With umpires, like you guys are human. Like umpires grow up supporting a team.
Yeah, because you love the game.
You love the
probably
game.
play,
and like everyone in Australia, everyone has a team. Like I grew up going for Carlton. I don't really like Carlton anymore, but like I don't have an opinion either way on them. But I used to be diehard, loved them, went to every game, used to cry when they lose, like all that sort of stuff. But like, did the AFL know who the umpires go for and you're not allowed to umpire those teams, or were they aware of that, or were they just like you're old enough, mature enough to deal with that?
So, we hate everyone the same. That's not quite true. You grow up, you've got a team when you're a kid.
Yeah.
Of course you do. You're passionate, you're involved, just like you. You play, you want to play AFL footy, and then whatever you end up umpiring. By the time you've gone through state league and all that, and through the talent pathway, just like you guys have a talent pathway, if I go to the ground and I take mates to the MCG, ball will go out of bounds on centre wing, right? And I go, oh. And they're like, what? And I go, oh, he's meant to go there and she's meant to. And they're like, are you watching the umpires? And I'm like, yeah, mate, that's what I do, right? So we go to the ground and you're watching your club like that, you're watching your club like that, and I'm watching the umpires. So it's the same venue, but we're watching 3 different stations. We're just wired not to be, I've got no nuffy on when it comes to AFL.
You're there to do a job, isn't
right?
it?
It's
That's
absolutely
what you can't.
it. And you're wired that way.
Yeah.
So I follow the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Canberra Raiders, and that's where I go nuts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so interesting. Like I try and explain this to footy fans when they say, oh, who do you go for when you grow up? And I say, Carl, who are you, Flip?
Oh,
Bombers? Bombers, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they can't wrap their head around like, so do you still go for him? I'm like, no, like I play for Collingwood. Like,
Yeah, no.
like I'm a Collingwood person and I it's so hard to explain to them because like all they ever know is die hard, that team, never change.
And that's their
I've
lived
moved from club to
experience.
club and that's just who you're with, you know?
Correct. And that's the lens through which they view the game, and it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's why we get 80, 90,000 there, and it's nuts at the G, and we love that, right?
Yeah.
It's addictive.
Yeah.
So I never want to talk bad about that.
No.
But that's not our lived experience within the ecosystem of Australian rules football, right? And it is very challenging. I don't know what it's like to walk in your shoes.
Yeah, vice versa.
Well, it is
Right.
for a period of time, right? Like as we're growing up before we get drafted, that might be part of our lived experience.
Yes.
Yeah,
And
correct.
It
Yeah, to a
just
point.
evolves and
Yeah.
changes.
Yeah.
I was going to actually ask, that sort of triggered me around like the ecosystem with betting and then, match fixing as
Yeah.
a thing. Like what's the education, the talk around that?
There's lots of stuff there, lots of contractual obligations and access to tapping of phones or checking bank statements and all of that sort of gear. The AFL, I don't know all the ins and outs of it clearly, but we have continual renewal. I just actually did one last week around renewal and education modules and all of those sorts of things. So we can't even be involved in an office footy tipping comp. I remember being a leading teacher at a secondary college. This is 19 years ago, and the school and the teachers and the kids would have this elimination type footy tipping comp, and I couldn't be in it. And they go, "What do you mean?" I go, "Mate, I'm not allowed to be in any of this stuff. We
Controlling the outcomes.
We don't go there, mate."
Yeah.
So that's something that obviously there's a lot of attention on, and a lot of scrutiny, and there's machinations in the background, and you're being monitored all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about some of the best games you've ever umpired? We touched on off air the line in the sand game that came up in conversation. So let's start with that one. But we talked about the showdowns, obviously some of the big finals. But why don't we just sort of cycle through some of the best games? And part two to that question, Have there ever been any moments on the field where you've seen a player do something and just be like, wow, that still resonates with you today?
Every week I see something the player doesn't go, like, I'm in awe of what you guys do.
Yeah. What about specific instances, like
Cyril
ones that
Rioli.
stand out at the top?
There's this one particular clip, and whenever they do anything to do with Cyril, it involves him. And they're playing Essendon at Marvel Stadium, and it's right of screen, inside 50 on the other thing, and Cyril goes in, out, and kicks the goal.
You're umpiring?
And I'm right there going, and I was like, this guy is nuts. Not quite to the same degree, but last year, Tex had a Lira on the mark at about 45, 50 out on this side, hooking in towards the middle of the ground as a right footer, sold the candy, Alir's sort of gone this way, put it on the left boot from 50 and just trace a bullet straight through. And only Tex can do that, with the way he kicks the footy. When Cale Hooker was chasing Lance Franklin down the wing, I chased him twice.
So Cale was chasing Buddy and you were chasing Cale.
And that's it, right? Yeah, but luckily for me, I was going straight down the middle. They were going around the wing, There's lots and lots of those moments. But best games, I think of them now and I immediately come to mind in my ninth game. I did a derby, and back when it was Cousins and Kerr and Cox and all of that rocking around for the West Coast, and Freo had Peter Bell and Anthony Grover and the Carr brothers, and they just punched the snot out of each other for 2 hours. And I was an infant in AFL umpiring, and I got schooled that day, particularly by Peter Bell. But I learned so much. Actually, I had to grow up and realise
have control
and what's going on here actually, and don't buy into that because they don't care and But the game where St Kilda and Geelong were undefeated after 13, 14 rounds, and Michael Gardner clunked one in the goal square to kick his fourth, and St Kilda won that. That was the most insane game I've ever been involved in. That's probably the best game of football that I ever umpired in. I reckon that's the best one. 2009.
In terms of the quality of play?
Yeah, it was just insane. I had Gaz and Chapman and all those guys, Enright and all those fellas were running around, and then the Saints had Lenny and all those guys and Rewaltz and that. It was incredible. I did an elimination final in Perth, and Carlton got beaten by a kick by West Coast. It was a high-scoring game, and I umpired over there with Matt Stevick and Brett Rosebery, and that was an amazing game. Again, that was just nuts. The house at Subiaco, House of Pain, the biggest ground in the world, and they just go nuts there, and they're all going for West Coast. Yeah. And Carlton were incredibly brave. I think Rats was the coach then, and so they played a very offensive type game, and that was a barn burner. So, and then any time Essendon played Hawthorn for a period there, I seemed to get thrown into that game, and it was always on.
You were the line in the sand in the middle of them.
So that game there, I had just been put on the AFL list, so I hadn't even been given the responsibility of actually being out there yet. I was just the emergency umpire. I spent 3.5 minutes on the field when they were punching the crap out of each other, and it didn't matter where I looked, I saw nothing. And I remember coming home and watching it, and seeing about 15 reportable offences on the TV, and I didn't see a thing on the ground. I was like, oh my God. And then any time on a Easter Monday that you got Geelong and Hawthorn, that's a big dog game for us, and they were always great. So they're probably the best ones.
Yeah. Talk to us about when you actually ran onto the field in the line of the sand game. You were the emergency umpire. Do you get paid the same amount as an emergency umpire or not?
No, and we don't have emergencies now because we've got 4 of us. Yeah. So we just refer back to 3 if someone got hurt.
Yeah. And is it 1 game per weekend for the umpires, or do you do 2 sometimes?
A few of the guys will double up, particularly if there's Thursday night games. If you've got Thursday, Sunday, you can definitely do that now from a physical perspective. Yeah. It's much less onerous. Under a 3, it was hard.
Yeah.
You could cover between 13 and 19 Ks in a game, and it was hard work, and I loved that. Actually, it was part of the lure for me, was that physicality element and the challenge of it.
Have you got a mate who's always bragging about their latest NBA same-game multi-wins but never seem to have the good mail for yourself? Well, get them to jump on BuddyBet, where the spoils can be shared. BuddyBet is your one-stop shop for social betting, and it has unique products like peer-to-peer, jackpot, and BuddyBet Golf that you won't find anywhere else. What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.
But of course, if you look at it now and you go, well, what's the role of the umpire? It's not to be Mo Farah, right? no one's there to watch us. Actually, we're there to serve you, and serve the game. So this whole athletic requirement, you need to be a jet runner, and I think it's ridiculous. You need to have the right balance where you've got enough out there to be able to see everything, and then we need to have relationships and decision making.
So you reckon that overrides the physical element?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. Where no one there is to watch how good we run.
Yeah. Well, they can run pretty good, a lot of yous.
A few of the boys are unbelievable.
Rip around the field, little whippets.
Not me anymore, but we've got a few that can proper tow it.
Is there a requirement in terms of, you hear things with like the police force around, you have to have this beep test or this. Is there minimum requirements?
We used to have standardised fitness testing every year, and if you didn't meet the benchmark, you couldn't do a game.
What was it?
They varied, right? So like, and it was nothing that would qualify you for Paris. Right, but like we had a 10K time trial when I started.
10K,
not a 10K run, a time trial, right? Like it was incredible. So you had to beat 40 minutes, which most guys run in mid-low 30s, but the older boys, like they've been in their late 40s and they've come back first day back and they've got a 10K time trial and they've got to beat this time, But more recently we would do a 2K, and then all that is there set to design is they get your MAS. And then they just build your training program based on your result.
Okay.
So it's not a requirement for the game. Any given Sunday is your fitness test.
Yeah.
Everything's GPSed, every session, minimum requirement, different metrics. You guys know.
Yeah.
Tommy, you've done too much of this. We're going to back it off tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or, Tommy, you blood you. We've got to do a bit more top end speed.
Yeah.
So we get all that now too.
You get all that data. So do you guys have scheduled training sessions during the week? Like how much training is your physical, like you got to get your runs. Similar to us, we have our two main training sessions.
What's a week?
And then how do you practice decision-making during the week?
Practicing decision-making is the big challenge because that's our core skill, right? So when we get to go and do club visits with you guys and we front up there, for you guys it might be just some stuff that you're doing in forward 50 and a bit of shits and gigs. But for us, it's like this is as real as it gets outside of a game. We can't mimic it at training. We kick him worse than Tommy. You know what I mean? Like we're not you guys.
Yeah.
So it's like trying to practice at our training with us kicking the ball is just a waste of time, right? So getting to club visits is the best thing for us.
Even in season, you guys come to trainings in season, which is good, I think too.
It's the best,
and it's the relationship building as well. Like it's probably
and you get to smooth some waters that you might need to because it might have got a bit heated a month ago, or also, you can answer questions and you get to know people better. I think it's really important. So with the running, it varies. So I've been on a cotton wool program for since about 2014, to be honest. I had some surgery.
10 years of cotton wool.
So I had a surgery. I had surgery on my knee, and so
how goes that?
Yeah,
well, I had to put
program.
Ticket program.
Yeah,
mate. I had literally 10.
Jay, mate.
Yeah,
I was 64 kilos when I first made the AFL.
64,
which is like nothing.
What are you now?
75, 76.
Front
so still not a big.
row,
Yeah. So I had to change my whole body, so I couldn't train the way I used to. And so it was just about doing enough to be able to get on the ground.
Yeah.
Do you know? But we have minimum metrics of LSR, gut run, and top end speed that you have to tick off. And because we're a little bit different to you guys, we've all got jobs and things like that.
Yeah.
Our running sessions, we can fit in whenever we want.
So you don't have to get together with a group of guys. You just got to do that.
Some guys do.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they compete and do all that stuff together, but you don't have to. And so you got to remember too, right? We've got guys who are early 20s.
Yeah.
Right? Single fellas and all that type of stuff. And then you got guys like me that are looking at their superannuation and wondering what's going on. So we've got such diverse group in terms of what our requirements are. And so therefore you've got to develop a program that caters to all of that. So, over 40 different people. So, the ability to be able to fit training into business, life, family is really important to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And what about reviewing your tape? Sorry to cut you off there, Flip. Reviewing your tape. Like
that's massive.
That's massive. Do you sit down with, say, who is the umpire's boss?
So you'll have a match day coach.
Match day coach who's at the game?
Yep. Generally, they're at the game.
Assessing what you may have missed or you got right and things like that?
So they'll tag all those things live,
Coding
but predominantly they're observing. Right. Now, if there's a problem going on, they'll get a call from the ARC or the head coach or whatever, and then they'll come and see us at quarter time, half time and go, right.
Make an adjustment.
Yeah, Tommy keeps punching blokes behind the play. You got to keep an eye on him, whatever it might be, right? So there's that corrective stuff that will happen. But match day, they're mainly just there to make sure everyone's okay. But then after the game, we got to go away and self-assess. So you watch your own game back. You'll get these huddle clips that come through. Or you have a look at these, 10, 20, whatever it might be. And then you got to give comment back. And that's before you arrive tonight on a Tuesday. I had to fill in all my huddle clips. Had 2 shockers. Mate, it still makes me sick.
It's like a player, though. You know, we do our review with our line coach every week, and you go in thinking, oh, no, I know what's coming here. Or sometimes in a team review, you know what's coming with you might have made a mistake or made a blue, and you got to address it in front of the team.
Yeah, and we're the same. So we'll come in tonight, and I've answered all my huddle clips and given my comments. So that's me individually. We'll kick off. It's the whole group. So there'll be a bit of an overview, updates about what's happening, travel. It could be, admin. Then they'll talk holistically about, there might be a couple of things. Generally, it's always around tackling and marking contests. That's where the lion's share of what we do is. So we're always looking at clips and examples of that. And then at some point in the evening, it's scheduled where you go and you do your match review with your team. So the 4 field umpires will be with that match day coach. And some of it, and we look at all the stuff. So, I might have let Stevic down somewhere because I didn't get my old butt across quick enough, and therefore we missed a push in the back because I wasn't where I needed to be. And we'll look at that. Why did that happen? Whatever. So we break all that down. Yeah.
So detailed.
I was going to say before, how many umpires are there in the registry, like AFL?
That are AFL listed?
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got 42, I think, are on our list at the moment.
Yeah.
42 senior listed umpires.
9 games a weekend.
And how you actually get into that, it's just an elevation process.
Just like you guys do, right? So you get drafted. We would get identified coming up through local footy, TAC Cup, whatever they call that now.
League,
yeah. And so they're doing all those games. W serves as a pipeline for our talented identified people, and they're also AFL listed umpires do W games. And then it used to be you used to have to trial in the NAB Cup and all that, but that stuff doesn't exist anymore. So this year we've had 2 retirements. So Chris Donlan retired and I'm retiring. I don't know if anyone's getting delisted. That happens. And so then they'll promote off our rookie list, whoever the next 2, 3 are. Yeah.
Is it a salary or per game?
So we've got 4 levels of base.
Right.
And that's around performance, historical performance and longevity.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd been at the top, but now if I was to go again next year, I'd be put back down a rung because I don't bounce the ball anymore, so I don't do finals.
Gotcha.
So I won't do finals this year. I didn't do finals last year.
Yep.
So if you haven't done a final within the last 2 years, you get knocked out of that top bracket. So there's an element of you can't just sit at the top and then be hopeless and keep getting paid top bill. Like you got to keep performing, which I think is excellent, actually. And it allows the younger guys, if they're on a tear, to get paid accordingly. And then match payments are the same for everyone.
Yep.
Same job, same pay.
Goal umpires, boundaries, they a little bit less.
Their bases are different entirely to us, but their match payments are pretty good.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they're very similar to ours.
David Roden.
Yeah,
He loves it.
D-Roy.
He loves it behind the big
He's doing
sticks.
a worm.
Yeah.
Get him on SAS. I said, enough with Dancing with the Stars.
Yeah.
Well, we get it.
Yeah.
We get it. You're a phenomenal dancer. Your hips don't lie.
I haven't actually watched
Test
enough
yourself,
of that.
man.
Seen Betty Cousins on there too.
Yeah,
Shane Crawford.
That's right. Yeah.
I just said to him, I don't want to see you on Dancing with the Stars again. I'm bored of it. You've done it. We get it. Test yourself. But he won't go on and he goes, I'm not going on unless you do. And I'm never going on it.
He just always seems like he's happy, that guy. I like that.
Yeah.
Best dude in the world.
Is he? Yeah.
Funny.
Maybe we'll have to get him on the pod. Does
he's
he
a
bring as
jet.
much energy as a Razor Ray?
No, he is a jet and great laugh.
Yeah, good.
I like
We
dudes
that.
with a good laugh.
Yeah, we
he's
like
got
that.
a great laugh.
Speaking of, this feels very Step Brothers, when it's like, let's interview you for a change. It's like normally I'm in that chair interviewing, but
Everybody loves Raymond.
Yeah,
you know.
correct. It's like
Do
a
they?
hand situation.
You haven't been out with me, mate. They don't.
What about like you mentioned you can't bounce the ball.
Yeah.
So if you've got 4 umpires, obviously one of them's arguably the best bouncer. Do you leave him to do all the start of the quarters? Or do you share it around? Or does everyone get an opportunity to show what they can do?
So everyone has the opportunity, but again, it's not about us, right? So if you're not having a great day, stand down, bros, right? It's not
out.
about you.
Yeah.
We're here to serve them.
Yeah.
So, mate, you're killing it. Fire away. You're up. And that's taken some time. I remember when I first started, literally 3 dudes walked onto a ground. I'd see you miss a high tackle and I could see it from here. You couldn't. You were the controlling umpire. And I'd go, It's one for Tommy. It's like the dumbest thing in the world, like, because it was like a competition between us three because we wanted to do the grand final. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, no, the competing people are the teams. We're here to serve the game. So that's been probably the number one thing that's evolved in the 20 years that I've been involved in AFL footy, is that mindset around what is our role, actually. Doesn't matter who gets the right free kick, just get it right.
Well, would you say, Flip, that's similar in like AFL? Because like obviously like you as a winger, right, you're naturally competing with other guys on the list, but it doesn't take away your relationship. And as a senior player, even saw like you at Hawks as well, always mentoring those younger guys, whether it be like a Maury type play and wing and still educating, even though knowing that eventually they're going to come up the ranks and
Take your spot.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Exactly. Yeah.
Like it's a funny thing, but it's kind of like, I think when you mature and get older, you naturally want to be a teacher, an educator, and a mentor to help them grow. Because
you go from the player that's
you get pride out of that, I reckon.
Yeah.
Well, you get. I don't know about you, but for me, it's like, well, why? Particularly when I could, like, my back got to a point where I'm getting this neural stuff down the back of my leg, and I can't get out of bed, and spasms and that. So I said, I can't bounce it anymore. Now I thought they were going to say, well, off you go, title off. But they were unreal. They go, no, hang around. So then you go, all right, well, why am I here? Well, you can help. We've got some really talented young guys and actually coming through that are going to be real good. They just need a bit of time at the crease, right? And so you go, okay, how can I be helpful? How can I assist? How can I, provide support? So I think that your role does change.
Yeah. It starts off, you're physically in the best shape.
And about
your life, career. Yeah,
that's so true.
You got that.
It starts off like that.
Right?
Yeah, because you have to selfishly, you want to make it.
You want to aspire, right?
You got to get there, and then it becomes, you broaden yourself as you get older. That's natural progression for every player, I think, and umpire.
And I find I wouldn't take away doing a grand final or whatever. I'm so rapt to being able to do that. It's a blessing, right? But I feel more intrinsic pride or value in that other stuff. Like, I got a couple of really lovely messages out of the weekend. We were over in Adelaide, and two of our guys, they've never umpired a game like that before.
There's a bit in that game.
Right, they've never, ever umpired. In their lives, they wouldn't have seen football like that.
Yeah.
And
that was the showdown, Adelaide v Port. Yeah.
And
Rankin knocked out.
And unsolicited got some messages from them that like was really like, you go, no, that's cool.
Rewarding.
Yeah. It means something to you.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's really cool.
But before we go on with some other stuff, when did the coaches of the games come in for the umpires? Like when you say, all right, you go in from your teams, you have a coach that goes through vision with you. When did that sort of extra infrastructure come in, I guess, for when you're actually evaluating?
We always had our head coach, Rowan Saws, when I made the AFL list. So there was Geesh, he was in at the AFL head of umpiring. And then Rowan was the head coach. And we had a couple of assistant coaches, Peter Howe, Brian Sheehan. And then as the game's grown, and there's now not 6 games around, but there's 9, there's 40 umpires on the list, not 32.
It's like its own football team.
100% it is.
The umpires are its own.
Yep. We've got our own doctors, physios, psychs, all of that.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. So that's been an evolution over the journey. Yeah.
You mentioned the word psych there, Ray, and something we're really keen to chat to you about today was your foundation, because of all the things you do in the mental health space, something you're extremely passionate about, and we'll get to you as well, Flip, with what you're about to do in the coming months. But the Ray Chamberlain Foundation, pretty special thing, suicide prevention. Do you want to give a summary of what it's about? Because we've obviously spoken about it a little bit, and I would love to get to an event soon. We've been trying the last few years, but we'll be getting to one soon. But obviously you do a lot of great work in this space. You're very passionate about it. You supply the funds you generate to charities, whether it be Are You OK, suicide prevention. Do you want to elaborate on that a little bit more?
So my brothers and I we wanted to do something together rather than just ringing up who's paying for Christmas. Have you rung mum this week? We wanted to do something together. My middle brother Peter has a really successful general insurance business. He's killed it. And then my youngest brother Brian, he's worked in the public service and won awards and all this sort of stuff. So they've got their own really good networks. And so we said, what if we do something a bit challenging? Might do it with a group of mates, and we might raise some money and give it to someone. It was very naive. We thought it was a good concept, and then life gets in the road. You get busy doing stuff. And then one day my brother rang me And the guts of it is his best friend had taken his own life. And Robbie had left behind a couple of young kids, and it was a lot. Now, what's super important about this is we're not special, and that's actually the point. We've all got our story, right? So I say this, and people immediately, they've got their person. And that's the whole point, right? It's way too prevalent. So we decided that was our catalyst. We said, okay, bugger this. We're going to do this, and we're going to raise some money. And we're not experts in the area, but we'll raise money and we'll find beneficiaries who are doing wonderful work in mental health and suicide prevention and grief and loss support, particularly for young people. And we'll put the money there for their programs. So there's my brothers and there's a couple of sisters who are on the board with us, and they are brilliant because you can imagine 3 brothers punching on at board meetings, and they provide the common sense and a bit of Switzerland, which is excellent. And this year's our 10th year. Yeah. So we always have an annual luncheon here in Melbourne at Crown. It'll be on the last Friday in February, and we should get 500. We reckon we'll get 500 there.
And public pay to go?
Yeah. So last year, Nathan Buckley was our keynote speaker. Nice. We get comedians along. It's always an upbeat event, right? Yeah. So everyone who's there is aware of the cause. Yeah. So we don't jam and bury in that. What we do is we celebrate what the group has done and what our tribe has done for the year gone, and look at where we've put the money and what the results have been as a result of that, or what programs we've been able to get the beneficiaries in to talk about it. It's a good day. So we'll have some social media and all that sort of stuff come out around that over the next few months. We love it. I'll be honest, I talked about that whole leaning in and embrace and all that sort of stuff. This is actually probably part of it, is that whole, razor and whatever it might be, particularly here in Melbourne, and where we get the support from different businesses and what have you. And you meet the coolest people, like the kindest people who are doing such great stuff in our community. And it's one of the most rewarding things out of my 20 years in footy is to be able to be involved in these sorts of things. And I didn't realise that it would be so that I'd take so much actually out of it. So it feels a bit selfish at times, but no, we love doing it, and we'll keep doing it. Yeah.
Is that what's next for you? Like, is that what you want to do? Like, you put more time to the foundation now that you don't have to run around and,
So the bandwidth, absolutely. There'll be a little bit more sort of spare time in there.
Property is a big passion too?
So I have a mortgage broker finance business. We're based in South Melbourne, got a great team. We're growing that. I love that. That keeps me off the mean streets. Yeah. And then the foundation stuff we do, I'm just one person on that board. So there's a board of 6. I'm just one. But I love doing my bit. Yep. And then, at some stage I'll get back and see the family, like they should be still there. So that'll be good to see them. I don't know how they feel about it, but we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, good. And Flip, I want to touch on what you're doing, because you and Razor would be a good, if you had to do that 10K time trial, I don't know who would have put more
Imagine
money
us getting some footage, us doing a marathon together.
That'd be great.
I'm in.
We'll both wear some rogue kits.
Just wear that knee down.
Yes.
Maybe you get me an AFL Umpires kit.
I love this.
Let's do that.
Consider that done.
Yeah.
You're wearing the number 18.
Can I have Razor on the back?
I've always wondered, how do you get your number?
So I wish there was a cool story.
Actually, I'll give you a kit of mine.
Yes.
You give me your kit.
You don't want his kits.
There you go.
No, good.
No, I'll give you a football kit.
Done.
You give me
give him one of your pair of sunnies that you like, either the pink or the yellow, so he has to run with. That'd be good.
I'll do that too.
I like this. This will be good.
That's great.
So the number, I was number 37. I come on at the midway through in the year. A guy got delisted or had to retire, had stuff going on. And so I got randomly put on. And so I said the number 37 I wore for like 5 games. And then we came back for the start of the next year, and there'd been delistings and whatever else. And you just get presented with your jersey. Yeah. And I was number 18. Had no genuine meaning to me. So then you sort of dig into it. Who's worn it before? And Cole Ralston from South Australia was the previous guy. And before that, it was a guy named Stephen Hanley. And so you try and learn a little bit about that and whatever else, not knowing how long you're going to have it for. And my heritage number is number 401.
That's what number umpire you were.
Yeah, in the history of the game. And we're up to nearly 500. So like it's mind-blowing to me because it feels like it's been 2 minutes.
It's not that many people.
But it's been 20 years, and I've seen that I've seen 70, 80 people
come through. Yeah.
come through. You just go, wow, that's crazy. So, very much, very grateful and all of that. But I can't believe how quickly it feels like it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you can't just say I want number 3. They just tell you what you are.
There's not a lot you can say in there that you get, mate.
Yeah. Okay.
Listen, let me show you where you are on the org chart, little fella. You're down here. Yeah, you do as you're told. Okay, no worries.
I'm going to push you in a trolley too.
Yeah, well, my foot's getting there, but I wouldn't mind doing the 10K time trial with you guys. Can you push me along?
Yeah.
Jesus, a showdown. How old are you now?
Yeah,
Flip?
28.
So tell us what you're doing, because you and Ray's, I heard you chatting on the way up. So you're doing...
Yeah, so I had a chance conversation with my grandpa about just over 6 weeks ago. We were just chatting about life, his upbringing as a young man, during his time, post World War II. We were just chatting, and I was just chatting about, the world as we see it at the moment, the different pressures and challenges we face, especially in the Western world, as a society. And I think there's, largely I think there's a underrepresentation of, men's health, especially, talked about in a really productive way, I think at times. And I think there's a fair bit of confusion around, the roles and how we best, lead and be strong and respectful, men, especially as boys through adolescence, and then, getting older, and how we, interact with each other, how we can be, vulnerable with each other, but also, continue to, I think, encourage, being confident and being powerful in our own right for, for ourselves and for our community. I think it gets, I think undermined at times, so it's something, I chatted to my grandpa about, and I said, look, I'm finishing the footy season as well. I also want to, and I'm going on to the, I want to do something, next after footy, and probably, wind that up, but I still want to be, an athlete. I still want to actually go let's get to the next challenge.
Well, you've always been a good runner as well, which is where the
jet runner.
Yeah, I want to go. Let's
you would have
go
seen
and
him up and down that wing on the MCG. Getting his 30, but no votes.
Thanks, Ray.
Yeah.
One of 3 guys, mate. One of 3 guys.
Yeah. Didn't say it.
True. But I've never done a straight marathon before. So I'm like, all right, well, let's do one, and then I'll do one after that, and I'll do 21 in 21 days.
So you're doing 21 marathons in a row.
Back
to back.
Which will get me to 1,000 kilometers in 3 weeks. But I want to do it though. I thought, well, knowing me, I want to do it creatively. I want to do it in ways that hadn't really been done.
You weren't
before.
joking about the umpire's kit.
No, I wasn't. No,
you're going to wear that.
Yeah,
number 18 represent.
So
maybe on day 18.
I'm thinking about 21 different kits.
Day 18, do that.
That's a good day for me to get in it, because I don't want to get him day one when he's flying.
No, and I'm trying to pick 21 different spots around Melbourne that are, a little bit well known, a little bit, different. It's the unconventional 21 marathons, really. So it's going to be, I've coined it yesterday. It's going to be Run 21.
Run 21.
Run 21.
21.
Funnily enough,
supporting men's mental health. Yeah.
Bizarre that was actually your footy number as well.
Well, yeah, a little bit. It's not purely because of that, it's the 21 times 42.2 Ks
Great
is
pace, mate.
just over 1,000. So,
that's unreal.
Yeah,
Geez, good luck.
Yeah, thanks, mate.
Well, you'll see him day 18.
Oh, I'm happy to jump in day 18 if you want. I'll have a crack.
Yeah, so
that'll break me.
I'm not sure.
You start training? You ever start training?
Yeah. I've been training last 2 months.
Training at Fins.
I was going to say, you don't follow
Fins in Bali. They have a marathon track around the beach. They do that.
Running around Venkatapati Canggu.
I was running there. I was running around Fins.
GPS was high around Fins.
Heart rate was up. I know that.
A few heart starters. I had a few heart starters. It'll be fun. It'll be fun. Starting just under 2 weeks, I'm going to have a crack.
Love that. Love that from both of you, doing some great stuff with the mental health space. Razor, we better let you go and get in to do your tape.
Absolutely. Every day's a school day, Tommy.
Last game this weekend because no finals.
Friday night, Melbourne and Collingwood.
I'll see you there.
Yeah,
I'll be in the crowd. I'll be the bloke in the
Heckling.
crowd calling
Personal.
you the Lord of the Rings, whatever you said that was. That'll be me. Maybe we cheer him off out of the studio today.
Imagine that. Should we? Or
Yeah,
do
I think so. I think we will.
Cheer off,
Down
right?
the stairs.
Done.
Yeah. Thanks, boys. Great
Cheers.
chat. Appreciate it.
Ball Magnets, thank you very much for listening to this episode. We really hope you enjoyed it. And also, we want to do a massive thanks to My Muscle Chef for jumping on board for the final series. Their meals are seriously tasty and healthy, obviously made by chefs, high quality food, which makes meal prep so easy to prepare for your week of training. If you want something higher in carb, they have it. Something higher in protein, they have it. And again, a huge discount available, guys. Get $120 off your first 6 orders using code BallMagnets120. That's BallMagnets120 at checkout. T's and C's apply, but head to mymusclechef.com to get involved.